All right, Capone and Noriega's The War Report. This album came out in '97, around June 23rd, '97. So that was my, I want to say, sixth birthday, and that was the same year the little man was born. So this album was about 20 years old, and this is the first time I've ever listened to it. The first time I've ever felt compelled to listen to this album. Um, like I said before, I was kind of struggling and reaching for straws or for things to talk about and things to listen to this week. So so I was going through the Supreme like old lookbooks and old emails I've got, and I saw the Capone and Noriega War Report shirt from the collab they did that dropped. I don't know, like I want to say winter fall 2016, but whatever. That doesn't matter. But I saw that and I was thinking, I was like, well, I've never listened to this album, so, and I don't really have anything else to listen to because, like I said before, I'm I had absolutely no will to listen to the Duro, to force myself to listen to the Duro mixtape at all. So I was just like, well, fuck it, whatever. What I have to lose. So listen to it once and didn't really get it. Listen to it again, and I was hooked. Fourth time listening to it, I was pretty much a fan, and it's pretty much one of my new favorite albums. Um, which makes a lot of sense since because I love Illmatic and I also love the Infamous. And Illmatic came out in '90. I want to say '94. Infamous came out in '95. So this is just a natural progression of my favorite, grimy New York hip hop, original hip hop and shit. It's Capone and Noriega. Or yeah, Noriega, Nori. Yeah, right. There's a bunch of features from uh, Mussolini, Tragedy Gaddafi, which is weird. It's just, it's weird that in '97 these people were like cool revolutionary people, but now in 2017 you look back and you hear like Gaddafi is like a terrible person. Mussolini, well, he's been terrible since fucking 1937 or whatever. Um, yeah, and it's kind of weird that they that they use these people as like their namesake, and also I think it is Capone who calls himself the album Nazi, which is super problematic. This album is if this album came out in like now times, oh my god, you wouldn't. It would be people would have a fucking fit over this album. That's because of the crazy shit that's been said on here. So let's just go ahead and get into the most problematic album. Well, 20 years. Let's just get into this album that shows how in 20 years a lot can change. Um, so I'm just gonna start talking about there's a couple of my favorite songs. I can't talk about the whole album just because I don't have the time, and it's gonna be a lot of it'll be a lot of that's my favorite beat or I like the beat blah 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 like that. Yeah, this was a hard one to pick. There's a couple of favorite songs. I pretty much got through my list of I think it's seven, eight, nine. There's 9 songs on this album that were pretty much hard for me to be like, well, those are just my favorite 9. It's a 21 track album, and there's only 3 songs or 3 tracks that are just interludes and just talking and N.o.r.e saying whoa 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 whoa, and that's I can't talk about that, and so just gonna go ahead and get into them. This is my favorite songs. Like I said before, I really wish I could have picked every single one and just did a whole hour and 30 minutes about the whole album, which would have been easy because it's a 20-year-old album, which I don't even understand how it's been around for 20 years and I'm just now having the getting the nuts, I guess, to listen to it. or just push myself to listen to it. I should have been listening to it after I knew I loved the Infamous so much. So go ahead and get into it with my favorite songs. The intro, like I said before, if the album has a good intro, that's a definite telltale sign that it's going to be a dope album. And this album, the intro wasn't anything special. It was this it's somebody. It was this people. It was this whoever produced it scratching Capone and n.o.r.e over and over again, which was dope. It was just a background beat. Kind of reminds you and kind of puts you in the time period of '90s New York, Queens, hip hop. Like I said, this is pretty much a mix of Illmatic and the Infamous, which you have Nas on the interlude and Havoc and Prodigy are on LA. So that's the intro. Driver's Seat. This was really truly the first time I've ever heard n.o.r.e rap outside of Super Thug, and the only thing I remember from Super Thug is the intro, what, and that's pretty much it. But I love that. Stick You, God, the beat is crazy. Like I said, that old school New York grime beat, like that shit is hard, and it's like this whole album is pretty much those beats. The song is pretty much about getting bad coke and robbing the guy who sold them the bad coke, which is understandable. We all been in that situation. So I I completely understood 137% why or how they were doing this, because you have to choke a nigga out if he gives you terrible coke. Um, parole violations beat amazing. Um, like I said, this is a really problematic album. Well, listening with 2017 ears is problematic, and the most problematic part of this whole song, I believe it's Tragedy Gaddafi was. It said something about tying a nigga's girlfriend up and raping her and videotaping her getting raped, which is terrible. And I was listening to it with my 2017 ears and being like, Jesus, that's a terrible thing to say. But then going back to '97, it's kind of like, okay, well, everybody pretty much had a raping, raping a nigga's chick line. Jay Z did in Devils. I believe Nas did, and Stillmatic. Who else? Biggie had a bunch of just like I'm gonna tie your daughter up lines. Yeah, I guess that was something that was big in New York in the time. So hey, whatever. Um, Iraq. This is a song that I can't get out of my head. It's one of my new favorite songs. It's going to be right up there with Mr. Flamboyant by E40. Just jeez, I don't know what else to say. I've been singing the chorus in my head for the last like 3 or 4 days. Iraq see the world sees Iraq. That's my God. Capone said probably one of the greatest lines ever to me, and there's 100 ways to flip it. I'm surprised nobody's in the 20 years this album's been out flipped this line where you said Queen Escobar's wears jewelry like scars, and then he said I got 85% of y'all worshiping me, which this whole album pretty much is Nation of Islam, 5%. Well, yeah, 5% knowledge. That's what this whole thing is. There's a whole bunch of God body, this arm lega, Nation of Islam references and stuff, which is crazy because he said he got 85% of y'all worshiping me, which means he's got all the deaf, dumb, and blind people listening to him and worshiping him instead of the Most High. You know, that's too much. And I'm not Nation of Islam at all. I've just read it because I get super bored and sometimes. Oh, Live On. That's pretty much the only I Miss My Nigga song that I can actually listen to and I enjoy because it's pretty much N.o.r.e talking about how he misses Capone when Capone was locked up. Capone was pretty much locked up the whole time they recorded this album, which is crazy because I didn't even know Capone was ever locked up. I actually, TBH, I didn't even know Capone was a real rapper. Only thing I really knew about Capone outside of being a part of Def Jam Vendetta, which they both were, which was crazy because I hated both the niggas on Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York and Def Jam Idols. Played both those games. I've been a rap fan since I was a kid, so there's those games aren't those games aren't anything to me that I don't already remember and I can't pretty much spout off of the top of the head. But I didn't even really know Capone was locked up, and which was cool to do my research and see that Capone was locked up doing the whole thing, and then seeing that Capone is really truly on about half of the songs on the album. And it's crazy because on first listen, I was really listening just for N.o.r.e. And here, going from Super Thug first to the War Report is crazy because when I was listening to it, I was only listening for N.o.r.e. and I couldn't really decipher N.o.r.e. from Tragedy Gaddafi, Mussolini, or Capone. So with this song, it kind of gave me this all straight N.o.r.e. and I was kind of like, okay, now I can decipher, which is still pretty hard too. It's just like the Clips first album where you can't decide, you can't differentiate between Malice and Push, but after you listen to it a while, you gotta get to the point where you can a little bit. So, but yeah, like I said, it's only I Miss My Niggas song or whatever that I can like really get into and really enjoy listening to. Never Die Alone, beat crazy. Um, and this is another like super problematic line. Every song on this album has some kind of problematic line, which makes you really believe that '97 was crazy compared to 2017. Just because he said to Saddam Hussein, the president of what I claim, left rack, what, Iraq, what, which is, well, he comes from the left rack projects, and I guess left rack and Iraq sound the same. And back then, Iraq wasn't the terrible terrorist country that it is now. So he kind of got away with that back then, but whatever. Times change. Tony, Tony, that is the best song. It's probably one of the lead singles off this album. I couldn't really tell what songs were the singles from this album. I looked for it. I couldn't really figure it out. But had to have been the lead single just because it's perfect. Tony, Invade, NY, Multiply, Killer Cop. You got beef, I got beef. That is crazy hook. Everything about this song is just beat. Everything is just perfect. I can't believe like I said, 100 times, and I'm probably gonna say 100 more times doing this little, couple minute bit. I can't believe I went 26 years without ever hearing this song, which I deserve to have my rap fan card taken away from me just because I've never heard this song, and it's probably one of the most perfect songs. And on the whole, from Illmatic to Infamous to uh fuck, what is the name of that Biggie album? Shit. Ready to Die. Um I can't think. Blueprint, all the stuff, all the New York hip hop shit that came out around the same time. This is crazy. This is Tony, Invade, NY, Multiply, Killer Cot. God, perfect song. Then we get LA 96 Mob Deep. I think this sounds like it was pretty much a call, like a diss back to the Dog Pound, New York, which is crazy because I've always been really deep into this beef. I've always said that I was feeling more of the West Side thing, and I always felt that West Side won, but I didn't know about this. If I would have known about this, I kind of would have flipped what I believed to believe was a winner, or who I believe was a winner, and I didn't. So I always thought the West Side won. Now that I hear LA, I want to go back and listen to New York, just so I can compare them again and see who really won the battle. But which is cool to hear Prodigy and Havoc with N.o.r.e. and all the Queenbridge, rappers and shit. Um, yeah, but all in all, great album. If you're like me and you've been a fan of hip hop your whole life and you've never listened to this album, you definitely need to go back and listen to this album just so you can really call yourself a fan of hip hop. Because if you've never heard this album, then you really can't say you're not a fan of hip hop. This is probably one of the greatest albums that I've ever heard. I love this album to death. Um, Big fan of it. Definitely gonna add this to my unfadable list or my list of albums that I'm never gonna take off my iTunes. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the War Report Capone and Noriega. I think since I did this, I'm gonna go back and listen to more hip hop albums that have been out for a long time that I've always avoided or just never even really cared enough to listen to. Because this has really changed my mind on albums like that. Now I see that even if it's not on the greatest albums of all time list, there's always, little hidden heat throughout the history of hip hop, especially '96, the early to mid '90s. There's always going to be this a really dope album that went under the radar from rappers that aren't really doing too much rapping nowadays, just because they've had their lane and every road pretty much comes to an end. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Capone Noriega War Report. I love this album. Definitely gonna listen to it more. You should definitely listen to it. You should definitely listen to it too. Thank you.